First, I want to welcome you all here, and I feel very fortunate to be here because 63 years ago, I didn't think I will be able to speak or to live because I was still in the concentration camp. And this why I want to tell my story to all of you. It's my duty and my responsibility. The world should know what happened to our Jewish people. Not only to Jewish people, there were other people that they were in camps because they were against the Nazis. I'm one of 4 children. My brother survived. He's here in the audience, Joseph Schneider. I can remember, as far as I can remember, I will tell you. We were living in a bigger city in Czechoslovakia. In 1939, when Hitler took over that part of Czechoslovakia, my father packed us and sent us to our grandfather in a smaller town. And this is how we were able to grow a little. And I was then 10 years old. And when I was 14, we were occupied by the Hungarians. They were collaborators with the Germans. It was very tough. The Jewish people couldn't have any more businesses. We were wearing yellow stars. It was a very hard life. Shortly after 1944, they took us to a ghetto, not far from our place. First they gathered us, they told us to take some small suitcases, only what we can carry in our hands, and that's all. We really didn't know where we are going, but they said, for resettlement, we're going to work, and after the war, we will come back to our homes. We never came back to our homes. My parents never, my grandparents, my cousins, my aunts never came back to our homes. We were gathered in a big hall in a school, actually. And then they were taking us to the ghetto. We were like 12 people in a small room, sleeping on the floor in the ghetto. I remember my aunt, she had 2 small children and her elderly father. My mother and another couple, my grandfather and my grandmother, we weren't too long in this ghetto because they had plans for us. We were taken in not trains, but cattle trains, packed, just standing or maybe sitting close to each other, maybe 150 or more in one cattle train. I don't know if you ever had an opportunity to see a cattle train, but this was just a small window, maybe 6 by 12, which we could see out. We never knew where we are going and where we are going to arrive. There was no lavatory, there was no food, just what we could take with us, some food, but in the ghetto we didn't have too much. They made some stops on the roads, and they gave us like a bucket of water. What is a bucket of water for so many people? So each other grabbed water, so nobody had really too much. When we arrived in Auschwitz-Birkenau, they opened wide the doors. There was SS people with dogs barking on us, and also people who worked already, Jewish people, for the, they had to work to. They told us to go out fast. We should go left or right. I wanted to go right with my mother. They didn't let me, so I went to the left with my sister, with my little sister. She was 12 years old. I didn't want to go to be separated from my mother, but I remember Mengele. He was the main man who were selecting the people to life or to death. He had such a big a stick or what, some from rubber, and he gave me over my shoulder, smack, you go to the left, because I was young and well developed, and they thought I will be able to work for them. So they packed us on trucks and they took us to the camps. Not to the camp exactly, to a big house, to a big hall. They told us to leave everything there. When we come out, they will give us to us back. In the beginning, I didn't have too much in that little suitcase. They stripped us naked, completely. They shaved our heads, they shaved my heads, all the young girls, whoever was in that group. We went out at another door. They dressed us in striped clothes, wooden shoes. We didn't recognize each other. Just by calling each other's name, I was calling for my sister, and I came with maybe 5 my friends like you are here in school. We didn't recognize each other. We didn't know where we are going. They took us to Birkenau, and there was a block. I was in a children's block because I was young. I think till 16 or 17-year-old, we were in this block. We had like bunk beds, not beds, bare wood, a 3-story bunk bed. We were 8 in a bunk bed, 4 in the front, 4 in the back. When one of us turned, we had to turn, all of us. They woke us up early in the morning to stand appel. It means they want 5 in a row to count us, how many we are. In the cold, they gave us for breakfast a little black coffee and maybe a slice of bread like this, dark bread that like not edible. This was our breakfast, and the bread we had to save for dinner. Lunchtime, they gave us a soup that it was terrible. We weren't used to soups like this, but after a couple weeks or so, we started to eat the soup. We didn't have a choice. We went back to the block, to the bunkers. We couldn't go to laboratories. We didn't have in that block. There was a block special to go when in groups. You couldn't go when you needed, only if you were very desperate. And this how it was for me for 3 months or more. Every day the same thing. My sister was separated from me after a couple months because she was younger and she was a skinny little girl and she couldn't eat even the soup. So they took her away, and we knew already what's happening because we saw at night the chimneys and the smell, the smoke. We knew what's going to happen. So I never saw her again. And I was fortunate that I stayed alive because I was healthier and more grown up. they took me from my 4, 5 friends from home, my age. I never saw them again. We were separated. And only one cousin, she's now in Los Angeles. She's about my age. She survived. And she wrote a book that only one. She had a grandfather and an uncle and an aunt in this United States coming before all the Holocaust. And when she survived, she got an affidavit, which I couldn't because I had nobody in the United States. And she's here, and she wrote a book that she only one survived of her family. So after this camp was, it wasn't not too many people already left, they took us to a different camp. They made from all the camps one camp. Every morning when I got up, we were surrounded with barbed wires, electric barbed wires. If somebody was touching these barbed wires, they were electrocuted immediately. So every morning we saw people laying, there were people already before us, 2 and 3 years before, from Slovakia and from Poland, that they didn't really want to live. So they touched the barbed wires and they got electrocuted. So one day there was a selection again, and they told me I should go to in that group because I'll go to work. I have a better chance to stay alive. So I went, and I was not selected to go to work. In a couple of weeks, there was another transport to go to work to the Czechoslovakia, Bohemian. And I was lucky. There was, I think they were from Poland, Polish prisoners of war working in that barrack. And they told me that I was alone completely, a 14-year-old child, skinny, cold, scared. Go in this group. Go to this and tell them that you are 18 years old. And I went, and they asked me, what do you know? I say, I'm very handy with my hands. I know how to sew. I'm sewing dresses. I can do lots of things. And I went to work to Czechoslovakia. This was a forced labor camp. I didn't want to be there. When I came there was 50 girls of us in this group. When we came there was already 400 other prisoners like us. On the top, they made also bunk beds on the top of the factory, and we worked this factory. It was an ammunition factory. But I worked night shift, and they took me to a different factory. So I had to sleep at night, during the day. So they gave me at night my portion to eat. I was hungry during the day. I was hungry during the night. So I didn't have shoes. But I had somebody gave me a coat that didn't fit me, and we went, I don't know how many miles by foot, and we carried our food for 12 o'clock at midnight that we got our soup. And there we had to be also every morning up to, they were counting us, Zählappelle, they call it in Germany. If somebody shouldn't run away, where could we run away? We even didn't have a mind to run away. So there I worked, and I was there till after May 15th, 1945. The Russians liberated us, and we were very happy to be liberated naturally. And I think the mayor of that town or a small city, he came and speak before us. He told us if we want to go, we are free. We can go, but if we want to stay to recuperate, so we can stay. So I chose to stay with other girls, and they gave us plenty of food and clothes and shelter. About after 3 or 4 weeks, they said, we are free to go, and they said, where do you want to go? I said, we don't know, we don't have where to go. But we would like to go to Prague. We knew already that we are not far from Prague, 50 kilometers. And I came to Prague. There was already shelters for survivors who came before me. The Jewish agencies in the UNRWA. The UNRWA is an agency who takes care on people who are in need. They put up kitchens and shelters, and in the thousands they came from the camps. And I was there for a while, and then I wanted to go home to see if somebody was alive. So we went by hundreds and trains and whatever, but trucks, whatever. We got to Budapest. Budapest is the capital city of Hungary. There was also shelters and food for the Holocaust survivors who survived. And somebody from our town, I don't remember really because there was so much excitement, said, your brother is alive. He is in Germany in a hospital. He was sick after the liberation, and wait, don't go, and he will come here. And I was waiting, and we met. Here is my brother sitting, and we met in Budapest. And we went together to our town. Naturally, we didn't find anybody living. Then we went back to the bigger city, and somebody told us we have 2 uncles living. They were also in forced labor camps by the Hungarians, but they were working, and I don't know exactly how they got to Russia, the front of, where they needed workers, so the Germans took those forced labor people wherever they needed them, and they were liberated in Russia. And they came to Czechoslovakia with the Czech army. There was a Czech army, and they were before soldiers in the Czechoslovakian army, so they came to Prague. And so we came to Prague, and we met with our uncles. They took us in. They were like our fathers. This was the only family that we had left, except cousins, a few cousins. And then we started out there. We saw there is no future really for us to stay in that part of the world, that we have an opportunity to go to Palestine, to Israel. This was not a state then. So we went to DP camps in Germany. DP camp is for displaced people. And again, we had shelter and food given, and we were like in a kibbutz, if you know what a kibbutz means. It's like people live together and work together in Israel. We signed up with this group because we hope that we will be in a kibbutz in Germany, that we will be able to go to Israel faster. And we were there, and after a couple months, this was already 1946, I went to Palestine with a group of people, and my brother stayed still in the DP camp, and he was supposed to come with the second group of people. And I was in France, in Marseille. We were waiting for a ship, for an illegal ship. We couldn't go, with visas because the British still occupied Palestine. And after maybe a month or so, we went on a boat, actually not a ship. 450 young people hoped that we will reach the shore of Haifa or Tel Aviv. But it didn't happen like this. The British caught us, and they took us off those boats. We didn't want to go. We were resisting. And they sprayed tear gas on us because, they wanted us off the boat. So we had no choice. We went off the boat already in Haifa. But we had guides, and they said, don't resist, don't go on their boats. But we had no choice. We went on their boats, on their ships, and they took us to Cyprus. And again, we were there also in shelters. I was living in a tent because there was no room for everybody with my group of people who I came with. It was not easy. After a camp, another camp. We weren't free. We were watched. And then Israel, not the government, but the agencies, made an agreement with the British. They actually let go 750 younger people or sick people or women who are pregnant to Palestine. And I was already married then, and I was young and sick, and I went with the second group to Palestine. And I still didn't go. They still didn't let me go. I was still 4 weeks. I was supposed to be under the British watch. They're like, again, a camp. But I was very sick. And I went there. There was not a hospital, but a nurse and a doctor. And they checked me over, they took blood tests, and they told me to come in 3 days. I came, and they said I have to go to the hospital, to Jerusalem, to the Hadassah. They took me. My husband was not allowed to come with me. I was alone completely. But they took very good care of me. And I was very sick. I had tuberculosis. They cured me. At that time, penicillin came. This was the famous medicine to cure all kinds of diseases. And I was there for about 4 weeks in this hospital. And they told me I can go, but I said I don't have where to go until my husband was not let go from this camp. So my husband came, and he took me out from there. I was skinny and could hardly walk. He had an aunt in Israel that she came before 1939, while they were still was able to go out of Europe. And she took us in. They were poor people, really, they didn't have too much. But she said, what I eat and where I sleep, you will sleep. And she found for us a little shack. And we moved in, and we started to work. And they sent me for a rehab for 4 weeks because I was after illness to Tzfat. This was on the mountains to rehab. And then I started to work, my husband too. I worked in an orange grove. I was cutting oranges. The men were standing on ladders and cutting up above, the higher higher on the tree. Worked there for a couple months. And then when Israel became a state, 1948, May 14, 1948, we were all very happy and lucky that finally we have a state, that all the Jews will be able to come to the state. And we worked, and when the war started, the first war with the Arabs, because they weren't happy to see a Jewish state. My husband was called in the army, and I wasn't called in the army, but I was trained to do first aid, you know, if it comes to that, if I need to help for elderly people or sick people. And he was a year in the army, and then he was released. And we lived in Israel 13 years. It was a beautiful life for us, the first home away from our homes. We never thought about the Holocaust. It was too painful to talk about it too soon. We were happy that we survived and we are alive. We start to build our new lives. It was a difficult time then in Israel, because a new state with no resources, with no money, but it was good, it was beautiful. And then after 13 years, we came to the United States. And we are very thankful to the United States that we are living here in a free society. We are free to say and to do and to work. And we are people. We don't have to be afraid anymore. And here I am to tell my story. I hope I made an impression on you, and I hope and I wish in my lifetime and in all your lifetimes that a Holocaust will never happen again to any people. Not only to any people should happen something what happened to the Jewish people. Thank you all for coming and listening to my story. I'm sure I left out a lot of details, but I'm speaking to you the first time. I never spoke in front of an audience about my experience. So I thank you all.
Could you tell us where you were married?
I was married. My first time I met my late husband in Czechoslovakia. And we traveled together to Israel, Palestine. And we were married in Cyprus. And when I came to the United States, I can't leave out my son, my late son. Because of the Holocaust, I couldn't conceive. I didn't have any children. So we adopted a beautiful little boy in 1958, and we came to the United States with him. He was 2 years old. My late husband got killed in a holdup. We lived in Philadelphia. We had a gasoline station, a garage, and they attacked him because of the money, and he got killed. So my son, he was 10 years old, and I had most of my family in Cleveland, Ohio. And my brother was in Cleveland, Ohio, and my uncle. So I moved to Cleveland, Ohio. After 2 years, I met a wonderful man, and I got married again. And we are married for 36 and a half years. I married the second time. His name is Louis Radzeli. And we live in Beechwood.
Was your first husband also a survivor, and if so, where was he during the Holocaust?
He was in a forced labor camp, and he survived also from the forced labor camp. And he had a large family. There were maybe 7 in his family, so 3 brothers survived and a sister.
How long were you in the concentration camps?
I was fortunate that it was only a year. 1 year from beginning, like beginning of June, end of May till a year, till May, the next year, May 15th.
Have you seen your friends, those 5 friends, since the Holocaust happened?
No, they didn't survive. Only one cousin that she lives now in Los Angeles, and she wrote a book about her experience. She's alive and a very sick lady now. She's sick.
I was curious, when you were in the camps, and I'm sure any day you could die, but towards the last, when you were liberated by the Russians, did you hear them coming a week before, fighting in the distance or such? Did you know a day or two before, or were you just surprised when the Russians finally liberated the camp that day?
No, we didn't know. We didn't have any news, or, they kept us very, very, we shouldn't know anything what's going on. But we got up in the morning, and they didn't ask us to come out to count us. And there is nobody there. The assessment, they escaped, and we were free. We were crying and hugging each other. We are free, we are free, we are free. That's it. And maybe a day later, the Russians came and they liberated us.
Did the Russians treat you well?
Yes, yes.
Do you get any kind of a reimbursement from your country for what they did to you?
Yes, I'm getting a small pension every 3 months, yes. It helps a lot. They can never repay us what we lost, and but we want to have this, we deserve that even more. And they're trying to help people, yes. Trying to here in every state in the United States and in Israel, there are people who are helping, like for the Holocaust people who are in need or they are sick, so the Germans pay the money for them, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.